Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, New Steeple.
Same people.
My name is Jeff.
And I am Scott.
And I'm the worship minister here at Johnson Street. And Scott?
I'm the preaching minister here at Johnson Street. Yeah.
And this is our podcast where we try to talk a little bit more about some of the things that we do here at Johnson Street and really why we do them. Kind of get into pull the curtain back and really look at, why we're doing it.
And oddly, a lot of people don't know really what happens behind the scenes. And a lot more people don't know why we do the things that we do behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty large church, and there's a lot of things that go on. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love about Johnson Street that I think really makes us kind of unique, there's several things that make us unique, but one of them is our ministry of Rush Street.
Yeah.
And so we're happy today to have the director of Rush Street Ministries with us. This is David Ingram, Jr. Do you like to be called Junior or just David Ingram? Is that your dad?
Whatever. It's become more important since Dad's living with me right now.
Make that distinction.
Yeah.
So you're okay if I call you Junior at any given moment? Maybe not. Well, I'm glad you're here, David.
It's great to be here.
Rush Street is an interesting. It's an interesting organization because it has grown, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But it really is amazing and a testament, I believe, to the vision of our people, the tenacity and the generosity that we have. Rush Street is a testament to all that.
Yeah.
And I think that what you continue to do is so vital to this community, and I would even venture to say a lot of people have no idea that Johnson Street is the people who kind of started, and it's really behind Rush Street because there's so many people involved even today, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said community because it's since I guess it was about 2 weeks after I arrived in 2020. We were just figuring out that COVID wasn't going anywhere, and we had San Angelo Gives. And we were talking in the office, this is going to be a rough year. It's not going to be as good as it was last year. And I was out doing my evening walk the day before, and I was down walking by the river, and I don't know if I could call it an epiphany, but I went back the next day and I told Janet Branham, our assistant director at the time, I said, this could be the best year ever. And I said, people that have been affected economically so far probably don't give on a day like this, but other people that do have seen their neighbors and friends, relatives suffering through no fault of their own.
Right.
And sure enough, San Angelo gave almost double what it had the year before, and so Rush Street is it's a San Angelo institution. I would say even it's been adopted by the community, and obviously Johnson Street is a big part of that.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And you've got an interesting past too, and you've got a lot of history, a lot of experience in some different areas of the world, and you bring to us a unique perspective. So just let us know who you are and kind of how long you've been here and what you've been doing up until this point.
Well, I do have roots in West Texas. I was born in Abilene. Daddy was going to school at Abilene Christian, and I came back to go to Abilene Christian twice. Once just out of high school.
Failed. Yeah. You flunked out.
Sort of. No, when I was, Daddy was a preacher, so we moved around some, all in Texas. And then when I was 16, he dragged us down to Brazil. And that was not fun. I would not encourage anybody to move.
Not Brazil, Texas.
Brazil.
The actual country.
The actual country. We moved from a small town of 3,000 in northeast Texas to a city of 3 million people. And
hey, I just want my daughter to know she threw a fit when we moved from Idaho to San Angelo. Could have been worse, babe.
I knew it was going to be worse, so I promptly ran away from home in East Texas. Before we moved, I ran away from home. I did. I spent 3 days foraging out in the state park there in Dangerfield.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
You were a teen runaway?
I was a teen runaway. I was. I mean, I was leaving. I mean, everything. You know, your world turns upside down, and I have to say, long story short, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. My brother and I figured out very quickly. My brother was 13. I was 16. We figured out very quickly we were in a sweet situation. Mom and Dad just kind of had to let go of us. We were in this big city. We had to get buses to go to school and stuff, and it was amazing. So we loved it. After,
Independent in a whole foreign country.
Man, it was great. So, and then, I came back and I went to Abilene Christian. I did journalism. I had no plans to go into ministry, none at all. It did not interest me, and I ended up going back to Brazil to work in a Christian publishing company after school. Well, I had a semester left, and it was just supposed to look good on my resume. And then I got bit by this bug called missions, and I got bit by this bug called Bobby. Ended up becoming my wife, and the next 25 years we were in Brazil doing urban ministry, and it's just an amazing run.
Now, did you and Bobby, where did y'all meet at? Did y'all meet at Abilene?
No, we met in Sao Paulo. She's Brazilian, and we met there. In fact, it's a Johnson Street connection. The person that introduced us was Antenor Gonçalves, who, together with his wife Phyllis grew up here at Johnson Street, and they're supported by Johnson Street there in Brazil. So I could go on all day about the connections to Johnson Street that I have without ever having been here.
Wow.
In fact, when I applied for the job at Rush Street, or when I first started looking at the job at Rush Street, there on the website, actually it was a job description that I got from the Cyber Institute. And I get down to the end, and the contact person is Brian Elliott, whom I've known and been good friends with since my freshman year in college. So it's just, wow, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
some of those connections that I already
Brian
had.
himself did some mission work in Uruguay,
yeah.
right? Which is nowhere really near.
Costa Rica also. So, yeah, there's
so y'all have that
just a lot of connections.
Common,
yeah. And so, in fact, we went to church, and we were, I was on staff when we came back from Brazil. Our Brazil partner all those years, Northside Church in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. And there was a family there, Caleb and Bethany Reed, and she found out I was coming to visit San Angelo, and I told her what I was going to do, and her eyes got big, and she said, "David, my dad was director at Rush Street." It was Bob Knox. And, who knew? So, yeah, it's just almost like I was supposed to be here. But it took God a long time to get me ready for this. Yeah. But I'm just thrilled to be here.
That's great. So your whole family grew up in Brazil.
Yeah. I finished high school, and then my brother did. My parents came back, and then Bobby and I met and were married, and we moved to Fortaleza on the northeast coast of Brazil in 1988, early 1988. Both of our daughters were born there. And, it's just, it's home in a lot of ways.
That's great. So you moved here. Mm-hmm. Actually, you were in San Antonio for a little while, and then you had the opportunity to come out here, and they hired you as the Rush Street director right smack dab at the very beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. So since then, what is basically your job description? I know that there are 3 full-timers out there at Rush Street, several part-timers, lots of volunteers, but for your job specifically, what is it that you do?
It's mainly to be the face of Rush Street in the community, which was very frustrating during COVID.
You were the mask of Rush Street.
You're the mask of Rush Street. It was very, very frustrating, and still it's been hard to. There's still a lot of agencies, a lot of churches. It's just been difficult to get out, but it's been getting better. So it's to be the face of Rush Street, to go to events, to be to meet agency partners, to find new agency partners, churches as well, and just be be responsible for that. Also, make sure we're fulfilling our mission just as a whole, that we're keeping within those guardrails of what we are called to do, and just make sure things generally are running smoothly. We do have 2 other full-time people. Rhonda Glover is our assistant director and volunteer coordinator. And then we don't have our operations manager right now. And then we have 3 part-time staff. Jerry, who is our kind of an operations assistant manager and dock manager. And then we have an office manager who right now is Brian Elliott, the first director at Rush Street. And
Full circle.
Absolutely. And then our custodial person. And everything else at Rush Street is done with volunteers.
Now the history of Rush Street started basically as a clothing on wheels.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just started out of a little bus, and then our people got really excited about it, because there's some people who are listening who may not really know much about Rush Street, but I know it started just wanting to help feed or even clothe the homeless. Really. Yeah.
There was a group that the youth group here went on a mission trip to Atlanta, Georgia, I think in 1992, and participated in some things that they thought, hey, we can do this in San Angelo. And as the story goes, they just they got to talking about it on the way back, and they pulled off the highway and just started praying, and came back and started talking it up. And before long, Brian Elliott got involved, and it was first called the Christian Service Center, and then kind of evolved, and then properties were purchased over on Rush Street, and it is what it is today. We stand on some pretty broad shoulders.
Yeah, that's right. And I heard that before they even got back to San Angelo, someone had either donated a bus or they had bought one on the way back. And so they had a bus ready to restore or redo. Yeah,
I think it was one of the old Joy buses.
Probably so.
Yeah, they took out a bunch of the seats, and so it was going to be a closet on wheels. So COW became the cow. And we still have the cow, but it's a 30-foot trailer now with a little kitchenette, and bathroom and all. So it's a little, we've scaled up a little bit.
And one of the funny stories that I heard that I just want to make sure this is captured is that people started bringing clothes, but I think the director at the time might have been Brian or someone else, I don't know, but they wanted space. They knew the clothes, it was too big. It was growing too big for the bus, so they needed space. And they weren't quite ready to pull the trigger, so they said, oh yeah, bring your clothes and donate them, and we're going to store them in the lobby. Well, if you've ever been to Goodwill, you know that when people bring clothes, they don't typically wash them.
Yeah.
So there was a smell started to emerge until finally someone said, let's get these out. Get some space, whatever you need to do. So I don't know if that's spiritual manipulation or what, but I love that because it shows that there's just a little bit of discomfort has opened the door for a lot of really good things.
God's a funny guy sometimes. He has ways of talking in different ways.
So what are some other, we talked about the clothing. Are there other things that people can come to Rush Street for? If I've never even heard of Rush Street, what are some other services or things that y'all do for people there?
Absolutely. There are a lot of things that go on at Rush Street, and everything we do is free of charge. We even purchase a lot of items that are given away free. So food, clothing, and furniture. We have bed programs for school-age children. For our elementary children, Sierra Vista United Methodist Church has bed sets, and they're all new. And then for middle school and high school, we have our own beds that we give out. And so when a social worker, school counselor, somebody finds out that one of their students doesn't have a bed, then they send a voucher to us. The parents come over and pick up a brand new bed frame, mattress, gel mattress. They're pretty comfortable. Yeah. A comforter set for the elementary kids, and then we have our own sheet sets that we buy, and then our quilting queens make quilts for the beds.
And that's kind of fun to see, to go back there and see those ladies working.
Yeah, so beds and other furniture. We don't have as much furniture as we used to. We had a team that went and picked up furniture before COVID, but they never came back, and it's just, we just what people donate now. Yeah. What people can bring to Rush Street. We don't go pick up furniture anymore. And then food, clothing, furniture. We have a lot of medical equipment that comes in, and we're on speed dial with the social worker at Shannon. Nice. They come get a lot of stuff, walkers, rollators, knee scooters, potty chairs, just all kinds of things. We have 2 Wesley nurses that come in, and one helps families with nutrition and especially diabetic classes. And if people do that class, then we give them the test meters free, and they come in every month and get their test strips. We have Ron, who fixes up bicycles. That was one of my favorite things that I first saw. We get bicycles from Randy's bike shop. We get a ton of bicycles from the police department. A couple of times a year, we'll go pick up 20, 30, 35 bicycles at the police department. Been left places. Well, I don't know how they get them all, frankly, but we're a beneficiary of some things that aren't really on the up and up in the community here. Right. So Ron will fix them up, and sometimes a kid get a bicycle for his birthday. Somebody who needs transportation to work can come in and get a bicycle. It's one of my favorite things. And then
what is that process like? How do you determine if somebody's really in need of some of these things? How do you determine that?
I think we start, 2 things. We start the day asking God to give us wisdom and understanding, give us insight. And then when we are interviewing our neighbors that come in, we have a form that they sign, and we just say honesty is the best policy. And so we just trust that people are being honest. And that's just, we rely on our interviewers to kind of be a gatekeeper if they need to. But we would much rather some people get things they don't really need than some people not get things that they really need. Yeah. So we try. God's going to help us do that, I think. Has helped us.
But you have a steady stream of people most every day.
Oh boy, now we do. Our numbers have just about doubled in the last couple of months. When a busy day would be 25, now that's a slow day. We have about 40, sometimes 40, 45 families that come in a day. We're open from 9 to 1 on Monday through Thursday, and then Friday is 9 to 12. And it's just, it's been really eye-opening. We have folks that haven't been in 10, 15 years. Wow. We have a lot of new people that are coming in that have never been to Rush Street. They've never needed it. So it's just a time of really heightened need.
Especially with the economy going where it's going.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's just it's hitting a lot of people.
And this is no small operation. I mean, you've got 30,000 square foot of space with be it offices and warehouse.
Counting all of the covered areas and all, I think it's around 35,000.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm speaking wrong. I think it's 42,000 square feet, covered square feet. Yeah. So we got 3 warehouses, another building that's the primary area where we receive our neighbors, and the clothing area and the food pantry, and then so it's almost everybody that goes to visit us, and we take them on a tour. They're just it's kind of eye popping.
Yeah. And in addition to everything that you do, you also have people who feed and have lunches for people most every day of the week. During the middle of the week, right?
Yeah, there are 2 ministries that use our space on a regular basis. Young Life has a space that's their own. It's a interdenominational ministry for youth and university students. And then Neighbors Cafe, which is First Baptist really spearheads that. Yeah. And they have other churches that volunteer to make meals Monday through Friday, fresh hot meals, and so that's a big deal. And then we also have other agencies. One of the big things we do, we can't do a lot of things, so we have a lot of agency partners in the community that we can send people to for counseling, for housing, for other needs that Rush Street just is not set up to handle. So
it really is amazing how interdenominational, ecumenical this organization really is.
I was gonna ask, how do you know how many different churches or congregations are involved now?
Well, either supplying volunteers or donating on a regular basis. I would say at least a couple of dozen churches, and Catholic, Episcopalian, Lutheran, Baptist, Methodist, Church of Christ. At least on this, we all agree. That's one thing I like to tell people. I said, it's just that to be honest, when I checked out the website, of Rush Street, and I saw that there was all these churches that participated, and even, the employees were,
right.
I said, I love this. Yeah. That was one of the things that attracted me. So, it's an amazing thing. And I think that's one of the reasons that Rush Street has just been adopted by the community, is because we those kinds of distinctions just are not part of our DNA.
That's right.
In fact, I was online this morning filling out an application to possibly get donations of things from a company it's a retail company, and they asked if there were questions about diversity, and I said we have all kinds of folks that work at Rush Street on a volunteer basis, and we serve everyone indiscriminately in this community. And so I think that's one of the reasons that people love Rush Street and love to help Rush Street, because they know we're going to help everybody.
That's right. Yeah, that Matthew 25 is where we can all agree. At the end of all things, Jesus didn't say, were you Baptist? Were you Lutheran? Okay. He says, you fed me whenever I was hungry. You helped me whenever I was in need. Those are the things that really matter. And I think our community's really latched onto that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, let's move on to the next question. You've kind of answered it a little bit, but in more of a formal way, why do you do what you do? Why do you do this? Why not journalism again?
Came to a parting of the ways with our, as far as employment with our church family in San Antonio. I felt like I was spinning my wheels, and it just wasn't satisfying what I was doing, and I didn't know how to get out of that, and the elders did it for me. And 12 hours after I found out that I was only going to be employed for another 3 months, I get this email from the Cyber Institute at Abilene Christian, and it's got the job description here in San Angelo at Rush Street. And then, as I mentioned, all the connections that we had to San Angelo and to Johnson Street and Rush Street, it became undeniable, I think, that God wanted me to be here for this. And it just seemed like, in many ways, for several years, that God had been pointing me in this direction. Even back before we left Fort Lauderdale, I didn't think, if you had shown me the Rush Street website or the job description, I don't think I would have wanted to do that at that time. I had some specific things I wanted to do at Northside in San Antonio, and I had done those as far as I felt like I could. And at the same time, I don't think I would have been ready to do this even 10 years ago. I think God was still sharpening or smoothing off some edges that I had. Told somebody the other day it took God 60 years to smooth off all of my sharp edges to be ready to do this.
Where did he start? What did he start smoothing out first?
From the
Top down,
from
maybe?
from the stories I've heard the last year from my parents living with us, he had to start pretty early.
That's great.
But it's just it just I can't say any more than that. It just feels like God wanted me to be here at this time. I don't know for how long. I don't. I thought I was going to be in Brazil the rest of my life. Thought I'd be at Northside for the rest of my ministry. So I'm here today, and don't have any plans to go anywhere else. Yeah. It's just.
Well, we like to end each episode by asking, if people are listening or watching, how can they be involved? What do you need from folks? What would be a blessing that ways that people can help out?
First of all, obviously prayer, and I don't mean that in a flippant way. It's interesting to see that prayer, the difference that it's made on a daily basis, and it's not just Rush Street generally. It's for prayer in the lives of our volunteers. I just called our former bookkeeper about an hour ago. I hadn't talked to her for a good while, and this phone call was just a reminder of how prayers have been answered in her life that we at Rush Street have been offering up for months. Prayers for our neighbors, obviously. Prayers for the community. There are things that we find out from time to time that happen, and we pray about those things. And I know that our volunteers take these things home when they hear about them, and they pray over them. So it's just it's a big part of I think why Rush Street is what it is.
And when you say, if somebody's not familiar, they may not know, when you say our neighbors.
Now, those are the ones that come to Rush Street to be served. We just like that nomenclature. We feel like it's what Jesus told us about.
Yeah, I love that too.
Helping our neighbors. And it's funny, there are even some local businesses that now have advertising that's, I won't say what it is. You can see it on signs around the city. But I think Rush Street was probably the first one to do neighbors helping neighbors.
Should have trademarked it.
I don't know. State Farm, like a good neighbor.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Well. So also, obviously, financial donations are important to any nonprofit, but the clothing, we've learned some things. I've learned some things. Socks and shoes for our homeless folks. If you think about it a little while, you won't be surprised how many pairs of socks our homeless neighbors need. And if you can't wash your socks and you're on your feet all day and you're walking around, especially in West Texas, you need lots of socks. Yeah. I have learned that men don't bring shoes in until they're unusable. Women buy a lot more shoes. And that's just reality. So we always need men's shoes. Just to be specific, there's some seasonal things. Obviously, winter coats and heavy jackets. We purchase a lot of heavy winter coats when fall rolls around, just because, especially for our homeless neighbors, and we use a lot of our funds to purchase those items. We purchase a lot of items for school children when they begin the school year. A lot of jeans, tennis shoes, backpacks, things like that. So those are just some of the items. Hygiene items, we give those out a lot. Diapers, wipes. We have to purchase a lot of those. Mm-hmm. So those are just some of the items. But anything that you might think that someone is just having a real hard time making ends meet, that they might need in their home, just to get through the day. It's probably something that we could use.
Are you good on volunteers?
We can always use volunteers. It's an interesting volunteer organization in that there is always a lot of work to do at Rush Street, but it's sometimes we have to look around, for example, for a group coming to Rush Street to volunteer for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. The volunteers we need are for specific tasks. We always need interviewers who can come in, say, once a week for the morning, or even for a couple of hours to come in and help us interview our neighbors when they come in. And
what kind of qualifications would somebody need to be an interviewer?
Someone who, above all, is genuinely interested in that person, because we want to know more than just what they need. We want to know, at the end of every interview, we pray with someone. I keep a record of Rush Street stories, and one day I was interviewing a lady and got to the end, and can I pray for her? Was there something specific I can pray for? No. And then while I'm praying, she just starts crying. I mean, just sobbing. And come to find out that her daughter was being abusive to her. She's caring for 3 grandkids, and it was just a really abusive situation. And so she just, in that prayer, she started opening up. And so it's just, so it's someone who does have compassion, who wants to know more than just, what do you need? Mm-hmm. But how can we pray for you? Or there, we find out sometimes that somebody's going to have surgery, and we'll be praying for them, before, during, and after. And I've given calls to people to find out how they were after that. And so it's just, but someone who has patience, is willing to listen, someone who's a little bit wary. I think we do want to be good stewards of what we have, and at the same time, we're not going to refuse requests from people. We're gonna help people that ask for it. But interviewers is a real big need for us a lot of times. And one of the challenges is, if we do have a slow day, you kind of feel, what am I doing here? But again, those are getting to be few and far between. Yeah. So interviewers, folks that help out at when someone goes in and they get their clothes, someone to check out clothes, help in the pantry, put together our food bags and get those ready for our neighbors. Those are some of the jobs that we really need help with. And that requires someone that can be there, again, for a couple of hours in the morning, or maybe even all morning on a weekday. So those are some of the volunteer positions that we really always need help. Also help outside with Jerry on the donations that are brought in. That's a big need that we have. So there's a lot of work to do at Rush Street.
So you basically need some people who have compassion and a pulse, right? You really just need, people is what you need.
Yeah. Yeah,
in some ways,
Rhonda will find a place to put them.
That's right.
Put them to work.
That's right. And there's people of all ages who I've seen volunteering. So
yesterday we had an event downtown at the Concho Valley Community Action Agency. They're bringing homeless folks in, and agencies go there instead of people having to go around to all different agencies. And so yesterday we had a volunteer who took her, I think 10, 11-year-old daughter to help us. Give out hygiene items, clothes to our neighbors. Great. So all ages.
Well, I appreciate what you do, and thanks so much for partnering with us and allowing us to kind of bless you and help this ministry along, because this is something we kind of look at as directly a resource from God that we get to manage.
I tell people constantly, I go home tired, really tired these days, and wake up happy.
That's great.
I think I'm just holding on to God's Him and moving along with Him. I'm having fun.
That's great.
It's great.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good story, and there's a lot you didn't say, so we'll maybe save that for the next time.
Yep.
You can always come and get a cup of coffee at Rush Street, and we'll sit down and chat.
Good. That's
Awesome.
nice.
Love it.
Well, if you have any other topic ideas of what you would like us to maybe go behind the scenes on, or give you the why or the what for,
Or if you would like to contribute or volunteer at Rush Street, we'll be sure and leave David's contact info or Rush Street's website down in the show notes. So check that out.
That's right. So if you have any questions or comments, please email me at scott@jscc.org or jeff@jscc.org, and we will get back to you. And we'd love to start that conversation.
Absolutely.
So for now, I'm Scott.
And I'm Jeff.
And we'll see you next time.
God bless.